will be allowed to offer namaz or, for that matter, any prayer at a public place. This essential point of debate has resurfaced this time in Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh. I'm Barkhadat, you're with the Mojo story. Our big focus today is on the newly inaugurated mall in Uttar Pradesh, the Lulu Mall, that is in fact owned by a tycoon based in Abu Dhabi but born in Kerala. We're talking, of course, about Mr. Yusuf Ali. As you can see in the pictures, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath himself inaugurated this mall. Mr. Ali has good personal relationships with the Prime Minister as well. The mall, pitted as one of the largest in the subcontinent, ran into early controversy as these pictures went viral of people offering namaz inside the mall. This soon turned into a snowballing effect, with Hindu groups not just complaining but also trying to recite prayers right outside the mall. The police had to intervene and has made 4 arrests. The mall management has clarified that prayers are not in fact allowed to be offered inside the mall for any religion, and the men who were offering namaz were not employees of the mall. The focus, of course, returns to the essential question about whether religion and public places do unavoidably intersect in a country like ours. And for many, it also returns focus on whether there is now a kind of hostility for religious minorities that we did not see before. These and many questions in our conversation today. Let's introduce our guest. Tavleen Singh, veteran author and columnist, is with us. We're also joined by Tushar, who's an author and an activist. Also joining us is veteran journalist from Uttar Pradesh, Hemant Tiwari, PKD Nambiar, who's a political analyst, but also Kerala is his home state. Kerala is also the home state of Mr. Yusuf Ali. So I'm sure he can tell us a little bit more about the Lulu Group. And also joining us is Gauhar Raza, who's a poet and a filmmaker. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's give you a sense of the pictures. What was actually happening inside the mall that created such a kerfuffle? These are the pictures that we can now bring up of men, a group of men who were offering namaz. Now we know that they are not employees of the mall, and this was happening inside the mall. The mall management says that there are clear instructions that no religious prayers or functions are permitted inside the mall premises. Those rules are very, very clear. However, just these images itself created a storm online. The organizer, which of course is the official journal of RSS-affiliated groups, also tweeted about this. I think we have that tweet somewhere as well, calling these images shocking. And you will see that tweet in just a moment. Let me bring in Tavleen for first reactions. Is it shocking? Often when we go to the airport, for example, there's a separate enclosure where you can in fact see people praying. Why are these visuals shocking? Are they shocking to you?
They're not so shocking as surprising. I mean, if these guys wanted to pray, why didn't they go to the mosque? You go to a mall to go shopping, not to say your prayers. And, secondly, as far as I'm concerned, I've had enough of this. People doing prayers in public. It has to stop. Religion is a private affair and it should stay that way. And really, these men had no business to do what they did. It was a kind of open provocation. I don't know who they were. Maybe they wanted this to be created, this kind of little controversy. But, it's just silly. As far as I'm concerned, what were they doing in a mall if they hadn't come shopping? Why were they praying? There are lots of mosques in Lucknow. They could have gone there.
So, do you decontextualize this from the larger debate around what's happening with Muslims in India today? Do you see these two things as unconnected? Do you think it should become a police case?
No, I don't think it should be a police case, but they certainly need a rap on the knuckles. And, to tell you the truth, the whole atmosphere at the moment is so hostile between the two communities that none of this kind of thing must be allowed. Apparently in Lucknow, Yogi Adityanath has already put rules in place and said, no loudspeakers and no praying in public. And I think, I don't like him much, but that's not a bad idea. Why should you need, is God deaf that you need to, or is he interested in designer clothes that you need to go to a mall to pray? It's all nonsense.
Let me bring in Hemant Tiwari here now. Hemant ji, iski पीछे की कहानी क्या है? आर थिंग्स एज दिस सीन कि इसमें हम क्या जानते हैं क्या नहीं जानते? बिकॉज वी नाउ ऑल्सो नो दैट हिंदू ग्रुप्स आर आउटसाइड द मॉल, दे आर वांटिंग टू रिसाइट एंड परफॉर्म रिलीजियस फंक्शंस ऑफ देयर ओन, और जो 4 अरेस्ट हुए हैं उसमें इन हिंदू ग्रुप्स के लोग भी शामिल हैं. सो कैन यू टेल अस व्हाट इज बिहाइंड दिस?
देखिए, देखने में बहुत सामान्य सी बात लगती है लेकिन बेहद असामान्य है। जो सबसे कट्टर माना जाता था, जिसका करेक्टर सबसे ज्यादा कट्टर माना जाता था, जो कट्टर हिंदुत्व का पोस्टर बॉय कहा जाता था, योगी आदित्यनाथ, जो पावर में है, वो लिबरल हो गए हैं, लेकिन माहौल बहुत कट्टर हो गया है। क्षमा कीजिएगा, आपने कहा पीछे का बैकग्राउंड, तो ये है, दरअसल ये रिफ्लेक्ट करता है आज की तारीख में यूपी में माहौल क्या है। बहुत कट्टर माहौल है, और उस कट्टर माहौल के पीछे सबसे बड़ा कारण एक जो बुलडोजर टाइप का वातावरण बना है, देखने में सामान्य लगता है, लेकिन इसके भीतर जो जो एक रिएक्शन, हालांकि रिएक्शन खाली 2-3 घटनाओं में देखा, कानपुर, प्रयागराज और यहाँ जो गंदी घटनाएं हुई, जो अराजक घटनाएं हुई, दंगा करने की कोशिश की गई, लेकिन ये तो जान लीजिए, ये जो एक्शन बुलडोजर नुमा हो रहा है, इसके पीछे रिएक्शन की पूरी तैयारी है, और स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इस बात को समझ रहा है। 2 बातें बड़ी क्लियर कर दूं, इस माल का इनॉग्रेशन 5 को होना चाहिए था, लेकिन आपने देखा होगा 2 रोज आगे बढ़ाकर हुआ। एक पर्टिकुलर तारीख को हुआ, जो बड़ी उनके लिए मान्य तारीख यूसुफ साहब के लिए थी, जो लुलू के सीएमडी हैं। उसके बावजूद योगी आदित्यनाथ वहां गए, स्पीकर गए, उनके डिप्टी सीएम गए, सारे लोग गए बड़े उत्साह से। कारण खाली एक है, यूपी में इन्वेस्टमेंट के नाम पर लोग डरते थे, भागते थे, वसूली के नाम पर। बेशक लैंड ऑर्डर की स्थिति बेहतर हुई है, और 3-4 साल में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने काफी एफर्ट किया है इन्वेस्टमेंट यहाँ लाने के लिए, ग्लोबली एफर्ट किया है। तो अगर कुछ गड़बड़ होता है तो एक ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टमेंट है, 2000 करोड़ की इनकी लागत है, और उसके बाद वाराणसी में जो मोदी का अपना कंस्टिट्यूंसी का एरिया है, वहां भी इससे बड़ा माल बनाने की यूसुफ अली साहब की तैयारी है। तो इस पे बड़ा असर आएगा। खराब मैसेज, खाली इस मॉल के इस्टेब्लिश होने का फर्क नहीं है, एक मैसेज खराब जाएगा इस बात से। योगी आदित्यनाथ जैसा व्यक्ति जो इतना मशहूर है अपने कैरेक्टरिस्टिक को लेकर के, अपने काम को लेकर के, वो भी काफी फूक फूक के कदम उठा रहे हैं। और ध्यान रखिएगा, ये जो एक्शन हुआ है बरखा, ये जो ओनर्स हैं, जो मैनेजमेंट है लुलु मॉल का, उसकी शिकायत पे हुआ है। क्योंकि ये जो लोग वहां जाके नमाज पढ़ने गए थे, और एक बात और बता दूं, दरअसल में मैंने देखा कि एक बड़ा जील सी है यहाँ के लोकल मुस्लिमों में, कि हमारे बिरादरी का, हमारे समुदाय का एक कोई ऐसा व्यक्ति है जिसने इस सब कॉन्टिनेंट का सबसे बड़ा यहाँ मॉल बनाया है, तो उनको जैसे अपनापन सा, मुस्लिम युवाओं को अपनापन सा लग रहा है। और नमाज तो उनकी कहीं पढ़ने का आदत है, जहां जाते हैं बस स्टेशन पर नमाज पढ़ लिया करते हैं। इधर माहौल सुधरा है, तो मुझे लग रहा है कोई इरादतन, मतलब किसी योजना के तहत नमाज नहीं पढ़ी गई। मौका था, टाइम था, वहां जगह थी, लोगों ने नमाज पढ़ ली, और लेकिन उसका जो रिएक्शन हुआ वो खराब था। और वो खराब रिएक्शन उत्तर प्रदेश के डेवलपमेंट का एक जो खाका खींचा जा रहा है, यहाँ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बढ़ाने का और यहाँ इन्वेस्टमेंट, ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टमेंट लाने का, उस पर एक बहुत नेगेटिव मैसेज हो
पर
सकता था।
आपको क्या लगता है हेमंत जी, इस संदर्भ में क्या होना चाहिए था इंस्टेड?
देखिए, ऐसा है कि जिन्होंने इस तरह की शुरुआत की उनके खिलाफ एक्शन हो ही गया। उनके खिलाफ जो FIR थी, उस FIR पर अरेस्टिंग उन्होंने कर ली, और इतनी फोर्स वहां इस वक्त है, मैं गया था कल, इतनी फोर्स लगा दी है कि कोई भी हिंदू, मुस्लिम, किसी भी रिलीजन को मानने वाला उस प्रमाइसेस के भीतर जा करके न कोई हरकत कर सकता है, न कोई पूजा कर सकता है। इसीलिए मैनेजमेंट ने भी एहतियातन वेरी नेक्स्ट डे वहां एक नोटिस लगा दिया कि किसी भी तरीके की वर्शिप यहाँ अलाउड नहीं है, जो नोटिस हमारी स्क्रीन पे इस वक्त दिख रही है। तो एक बड़ा थोड़ा सा अच्छी अंडरस्टैंडिंग के साथ एक तरीका निकाल लिया गया, वरना इतना जान लीजिएगा, इस वक्त जो यूपी का माहौल है उसमें एक्शन का रिएक्शन बहुत शार्प है, बहुत ज्यादा शार्प है। इसको हमने प्रयागराज और कानपुर की 2 घटनाओं में देखा।
तभी मैंने एक वर्ड यूज किया, कैन यू decontextualize what is happening? And Tavleen, before I open this up, I'll take this back to you. The fact that you have security outside a mall today to basically stop people from competitive displays of religion. What would have happened? I'm just making an argument. If, for example, these men who were offering namaz had been ignored, if they'd just been simply ignored, what would have happened? Tavleen.
Well, I don't know really. I can't comment on that because Hemant seems to know much more than me about the little conspiracies that are going on in Lucknow. But I will say that I'm decontextualizing it only from the point of view. I mean, we all know what has been going on for the past few months, but I'm just saying that maybe these guys just innocently decided that they would sit down and pray. But you asked me whether I think it's a good idea for people to go around praying in mosques. I mean, in malls, and I think it's a bad idea, particularly in the present atmosphere, because the present atmosphere is very fraught. And why did they need to, Hemant is saying कि स्टेशन पे भी कर देते हैं, लेकिन अब ना करें तो अच्छा होगा. मस्जिद कोई इतनी दूर नहीं होगी वहां से, मॉल से वहां चले जाते.
Gauhar, can I bring you in? I do know you're an avowed atheist, and so you don't come to this from the perspective of being a believer. But there are two dimensions to this. One is that religion often does spill over into our public spaces. We've all grown up in neighborhoods where you'll often see, for example, a diya or a genda pool placed under a tree. You'll see a mandir where sometimes things spill over onto the streets. But namaz, I guess, is a congregation. It's often not solo, it's often a group of people. And if there is an enclosure, so be it, as we do see at our airports. Do you think that that this is innocuous, both the offering of the prayers and what has happened thereafter? You're on mute. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Am I? Barkha, let me make it very clear that I am against any public display or activity, in public arena, any activity which is religious in nature. Our country is a secular country, and therefore all these things should be avoided. But when covered yatra is starting, and there will be a public display for a very long time of one particular kind of religion on streets, and we know what happens in covered yatra, and what kind of things have happened in the past. At that particular moment, a few people praying in a mall in a corner, I don't think that it should be made into a political issue, or a violent reaction should come from any other. In fact, I'm very amazed that those people who believe in God, those people who believe in supernatural power, and though they very sincerely pray, how can they ask others not to pray? And how can they make it an issue and a violent issue? I just fail to understand. They were praying God. They were so there is no locus standi for anybody who is indulging repeatedly into public display of his or her own religion to accuse others of doing it. In my opinion, it should be the religious matter should be considered as personal matter, and any public display of it. But I still say that I cannot even imagine a person who keeps on displaying his own religion on sleeves, accuses others of doing it. This is not acceptable.
So you're saying that, like Tavleen, you're not comfortable with these public displays of religious faith, but you do not agree with the response to it because you think there's an essential double standard, as it were, in the response. You talk about the kavariyas whose processions often go through the streets and highways of our cities. That is a fair point. Let me bring in PKD Nambiar and Tushar Gandhi. Mr. Nambiar, tell us a little bit, of course, about the Lulu chain. It's Kerala-born, now Abu Dhabi-based tycoon. Hemant ji makes the point about how this will all have an adverse effect on investment assessment in Uttar Pradesh if you need to post security outside malls and you have these arrests that have to be made कि उन्होंने नमाज दी अब हम अपने faith का धर्म दिखाएंगे and so on. PKD.
Barkha, I believe that all the people will agree in the panel. In fact, Tavleen ji has clearly said that religion is a personal affair, and one do not really require to go and do a public display of his belief. And as far as the Lulu is concerned, I work very closely with Lulu in my Middle East business. We do a lot of business with Lulu, and I know Yusuf Saab personally very well. So a businessman do not have any religion. The religion of a businessman is growth of his business and the welfare of the people. And as far as Mr. Yusuf Ali would be having his own personal religion, but that does not affect in his functioning of business. And this Lulu as an empire is not only in the Middle East or in India, it is in the Africa, it's in the Australia, it's almost in everywhere. They have got hotels in the UK and so on and so forth. So I think a businessman do not have a religion when he is doing it. And secondly, and most importantly, you need to make it very clear that it is not just a shopping mall is not just a typical public place like a Sarkari bus adda or anything. It is more of like a commercial place. So please note, this is a commercial place. It is not a typical government public place. So it is important to note that it is, and there is a culture which is taking place in the country from the last couple of years.
But what about Mr. Gauhar Raza's point that then there should be no public display of any religion and we don't apply this uniformly?
Absolutely, I am coming to that. Actually, comparing a Kavod Yatra and to a namaz in a shopping mall has no comparison to each other. The shopping mall is a new idea altogether for a country like us, and a commercial place. And in Kavod Yatra, I don't think that any commercial place is being utilized for any kind of a rituals. I don't think, I have never seen it anywhere. And I think religious congregations, nobody is against. But do you require to do that in a shopping mall at a place where there is a commercial activity is happening?
And I think that's a fair point. I think that's a fair point.
One second more. While we give a benefit of doubt that it may have been done, as Tavleen ji said, that it may have just happened, that the place was empty, everything was right. But then you will have to look at from the point of view of there is a large amount of infiltration and PFI activities are happening across the country. They are a part of every religious communal violences which has taken place in the country in the last 2-3 years, and every inquiry is leading to that. So it could be even that. It could be even that.
Okay, so there are two theories here. One, this was done consciously, deliberately to stoke the kind of competitive response that came. The other, that it was innocuous, but all of our panelists seem to believe that it is absolutely not preferable to display your faith in public spaces. Tushar, do you agree or do you have a somewhat different perspective?
Barkha, I want to raise the question, why are we so sensitive to displays of religiosity anywhere, public place, private place? Why do we differ? One, are we challenging the constitutional right of choice and practice that is given by the constitution? Do we want to change that? Why is it that, and the question with this particular episode in mind, were those people offering namaz obstructing others? Were they blocking access? Were they forcing the mall to be shut down? Or were they just praying in a convenient place? These questions, I think, are much more important. And the other question that I find very worrying is, why have we turned religion into a politicized competition? You wanted to pray. If they were offering the namaz, you wanted to pray. Why couldn't you just go there quietly, offer prayers, and come out?
No, but
without
I mean,
obstructing anybody, without blocking
practically,
anything. Let me finish this.
No, okay.
Why did they have to turn it into a tamasha and protest? Why is prayer a protest? You wanted to chant your shlokas. You wanted to chant something out of your religious text. Why couldn't you have done it with devotion? Why did it have to be an angry backlash to a namaz being offered over there? So your intentions are wrong. Let's
I take the
question
point.
those things.
I take the point about the anger, and I agree with you. But practically, if you're saying that there should be no problem, then the mall will become a multi-faith place. On one corner there'll be kirtans, on one corner there'll be bhajans, on one corner there'll be the namaz. That's not what the mall is for, right? That's not what the
Barkha,
mall is for.
Barkha, I have seen special prayer rooms that are
Yes, at
non-dominating
airports. At
offered at
airports.
airports, even in malls. I have seen them even in malls where that can be done, and any religion can go and do their praying or even just meditation over there. It's very easy to give a area and say, okay, you want to do your prayers, you can do it, but continue shopping also while doing that.
Yeah. Okay, I think there's an interesting point there, and let me take this to Tavleen, because Tavleen, you said that, why not go to a mosque? Now, the namaz is offered 5 times a day. There are specific times in the day that it is offered. You could be in the mall at this point. I think the point Tushar is making is there can be a friendly resolution. There doesn't have to be a hostile resolution. There can be a benign resolution. The benign resolution can simply be, here's a room or here's a multi-faith space corner. Anyone wants to pray, do anything, this is available for you. Would that have been a more benign space, or do you actually agree with Yogi Adityanath's beliefs that loudspeakers, not just affiliated with mosques but even temples, there's this kind of clamp down on public displays of faith? Where are you on this debate?
Oh, I totally agree with Yogi Adityanath for once on this public, the loudspeakers and all that has to go. Temples, mosques, gurdwaras, all of them, they can, do it more peacefully. But I wanted to take up something that Tusharji just said. This business of we mustn't, religion should be part of should not become a politicized thing. This country was broken up in the name of religion. Please don't forget that. So when we say that this discourse cannot involve, the political discourse fundamentally involves religion in India. And at the moment, it has heated up precisely because the people who believed in Akhand Bharat, etc., have decided that this is their moment to say, okay, enough is enough. Muslims will live in India on our terms. Now, we don't want anybody to help that process along. I would prefer, I think that the Hindus going to pray and Hanuman Chalisa in public and all that is just as bad. I would object if they started reciting the Granth Sahib I better say Guru Granth Sahib before some Sikh guy goes after me, because I'm also a non-believer, right? And I actually believe that at night when I wake up with either temple bells ringing and the azan going and the gurdwara is going, I don't particularly want that. You're actually interfering in the space of and
Okay.
as for no malls should have, I've seen them in the Middle East, which are religious countries, a prayer room in a mall. You don't see them anywhere else. We're supposed to be a secular country, so let's not encourage this idea of a little puja room in a mall. It's not necessary.
I'll allow Tushar a brief response and then come to Hemant. Tushar?
How long, I just want to know, how long are we going to keep hanging on to what happened at the partition? When are we going to move on and talk about the current incidents being a repetition of what was done and how the partition came about? Because over here we see a systematic program of division of hearts, division of human beings, and intimidation of groups. And it's not only, we may at the moment think it's Muslims, but the signal is going out to all minorities over here. And not just the religious group that was identified with the partition. So let's not be naive about this.
हेमंत जी, आपको पूछूंगी, आपने कहा एक्शन रिएक्शन, किसका रिएक्शन? आपने बुलडोजर्स की बात की, primarily seen as an instrument now of law enforcement against Muslims. That is how it's being seen, as a way of managing crime. But somehow in majority of the cases, those accused of crimes have been Muslims. क्या आपका कहना है कि ये जो लोग थे, क्योंकि मॉल has said ये हमारे एम्प्लॉयज नहीं थे, ये जो लोग थे जो गए, जो नमाज ऑफर की, क्या आपका ये इशारा है कि ये जान के किया गया सब कुछ?
मैं यही तो कह रहा हूं, हम लोग इतने वरिष्ठ लोगों के साथ देश के, मुझे लगता है कि ऐसा पैनल तो किसी बड़े चैनल के पास नहीं होता हो जहां तुषार जी और तवलीन जी जैसे लोग बैठे हो। लेकिन एक चीज ध्यान रखिएगा, हम लोग बच्चों की तरह बात क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्या हमको नहीं पता है? अभी यूपी के इलेक्शन हुए, वोटिंग का पैटर्न क्या रहा? क्या हिंदू मुसलमान बन के वोटिंग नहीं हुई? क्या यही वोटिंग करा के हम सत्ता नहीं पाते हैं? अभी आपने लाउड स्पीकर उसकी बात कर की, यूपी छोड़ दीजिए, यूपी में तो योगी राज है, योगी ने कंट्रोल करके एक अलग यूएसपी अपनी बना ली। लेकिन महाराष्ट्र में क्या हुआ? महाराष्ट्र में लाउड स्पीकर नहीं बांटे गए, मस्जिदों के खिलाफ क्या क्या नहीं हुआ, हम सब देख रहे हैं। दरअसल बरखा, ईमानदारी की बात है, सच्चाई स्वीकार करनी चाहिए और इस देश को जो चला रहे हैं उनको सोचना चाहिए। हम लोग धार्मिक आधार पर जो एक बंटवारा होता है उसके ऐसे मुहाने पे खड़े हैं जो सन 47 में भी हमने नहीं देखा था, माफी के साथ कहना चाहूंगा। और जिस तरह की घटनाएं होती हैं, जिस तरह की दंगे की कोशिशें होती रही हैं, ये अलग बात है कि उत्तर प्रदेश जैसे राज्य में जहाँ जाति और धर्म बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर हर विषय में होता है, पॉलिटिक्स लेकर के सोशल लाइफ तक, वहाँ ये चीज नहीं हो पाई है। लेकिन खतरे के मोड़ पर है, खतरनाक मोड़ पर है। और रिएक्शन में क्यों कह रहा हूँ वर्षा जी, मैंने देखा है कि जहां 500 मुसलमानों ने एक बूथ पर एक साथ वोट दिया है, तो 7-7 बूथ पर ओबीसी और गैर जातियां इकट्ठा हो गई। तभी ये नतीजे उत्तर प्रदेश के विधानसभा चुनाव अपनी आंखों से देखा, इसलिए बोलता हूँ।
आप ये कह रहे हैं कि ये बचपना होगा टू थिंक दैट दिस इज जस्ट इनोसेंट। दोनों ही गुटों ने ये कॉन्शियसली किया है, द पीपल जिन्होंने नमाज ऑफर की और जो उसके बाद आए, गुस्से में आए। आप कह रहे हैं ये पूरा ही एक पोलिटिसाइज्ड
ये
चीज हुई है, ये इनोसेंट
मैं
चीज नहीं है, ये स्पॉन्टेनियस
ये
चीज नहीं है।
एक चीज क्लियर मैं कर दूं, ये कुछ लोग हैं, 8, 10, 15 लोग जो आए, हिंदू महासभा के लोग, वो 10-12 उनकी कुल संख्या मुझे मालूम है। और जो लोग वहां नमाज पढ़ रहे थे वो सबने देखा, 10-12 से ज्यादा नहीं है। ये 10-12 लंपट या असामाजिक लोग अगर इस तरह से हरकत करे तो उसको, मुझे लगता है, इस न तो समाज स्वीकार करेगा न सरकार स्वीकार करेगी। मैं योगी आदित्यनाथ के का जो करंट रवैया है उसकी तारीफ करता हूं कि उनको लग रहा है कि इन लंपटों या इन अनसोशल एलिमेंट्स के नाते हमने एक जो प्लेटफॉर्म तैयार किया है ग्लोबली इन्वेस्टमेंट कराने का, और वाकई बता रहा हूं, दशकों बाद बरखा, कई दशक बाद बाहर का विदेशी इन्वेस्टर, देश का बड़ा इन्वेस्टर यूपी में आ रहा है। नरेंद्र मोदी की कोशिश, योगी आदित्यनाथ गवर्नमेंट की कोशिश, और इस तरह की घटनाएं, खुद मैंने क्या बताया आपको, मिस्टर यूसुफ ने कहा है कि दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा माल हम बनाएंगे वाराणसी में, काशी में। और भी इन्वेस्टमेंट के उनके प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, होटल्स के बारे में सोच रहे हैं। तो नुकसान अल्टीमेटली किसका होगा? मैं योगी आदित्यनाथ के एक स्टैंड की तारीफ कर रहा हूं कि उन्होंने जो डेट एक्सटेंड की, मुझे लगता है उस दिन बकरा ईद थी, ईद उल जुहा था, उसके बावजूद योगी आदित्यनाथ खुद गए, उन्होंने इनॉग्रेट किया, बड़ी खुशी के साथ वहां से आए। और इस पूरे प्रकरण के बावजूद सरकार एकदम तटस्थ भाव से, न्यूट्रल होकर के एक्शन कर रही। ये बड़ी चीजें, शायद वही वही आशंका से बचने की, हजारों
जी
लड़कों को रोजगार मिलेगा,
नहीं,
लोकल
आपने
रोजगार मिलेगा।
जी जी जी, मैं समझती हूँ आपकी बात। आई वांट टू ब्रिंग इन गौहर एंड पीकेडी। गौहर, राजा, let's bring you in. One argument made is that you can't really compare religious processions with namaz. That is the point made, and there's some reasonableness in that argument because it's not as if there aren't religious processions taken out by minorities as well that are curtailed. Secondly, the police in UP, in this case, has acted against those lumpens who came outside the mall from the Hindu groups as well. They seem to have acted even handedly from what we know thus far. I just think it's a tragedy that we've come to a point where we're policing. We are policing, these sort of situations. But Hemant ji, on the ground, seems convinced that the whole idea was to kind of foment a confrontation.
You are absolutely right, and this is the danger. Tavleen, you said that reminded us of 1947. Uh, let's not move towards a situation where 47 happens again. And I agree with Tushar ji completely that it's a signal to all minorities that is being given, and they are restless. All of them are restless. It's not that only Muslims are restless in the country today and feel insecure, but also other minorities are feeling extremely insecure. Having said that, I'll again repeat myself that any public display may lead to this kind of confrontation, and therefore public display of religion should be avoided. I'm not talking only about Kavadiya. I'm talking about public display of religion in a bank branch. You enter into a bank branch and you have some kind of symbol or the other which is religious. These are secular spaces, and I'm talking about spaces like scientific labs. You enter into a scientific lab, and there is a religious symbol that you will encounter, but you will never encounter a secular symbol in a religious place, which has been always my
Yeah.
complaint. That have you seen ever Einstein's photo or C.V. Raman's photo in any of the religious places all across the country? So there is a problem with public display,
Yeah.
and
I think it's a very, yeah, that's a
in
very
my
good,
opinion,
interesting point. Yeah, sorry,
and
complete, complete.
in my opinion, this particular case which we are debating today is extremely unfortunate that PFI was suddenly mentioned by one of the speakers, and RSS was not. Though every violent incident in the country, which could be uh, uh, designated as communal violence, there is an involvement of RSS in the country. We
Well,
should
well,
keep
not that we should be
all of it.
defending PFI for that reason. Not that we should be
No,
defending.
PFI for me is RSS of Muslims. So there is no difference for
Okay,
me between
I, I know, Mr. Nambiar,
Kattarpanthi of this kind or that kind. I think
I can see a
all
lot
of
of
them should be
reaction.
opposed,
I can
because
see a lot of, yeah.
ultimately this hate is spreading will take us to a situation where we may encounter 47 months again.
I can see PKD. I'm coming to you in just a moment, but I know Tavleen wants to, I think, disagree on the analogy between the PFI and the RSS. Tavleen, please go ahead.
That's really a false equivalence. Okay, the PFI chopped off the hand of a professor in Kerala. That's how I first discovered the PFI. The PFI has literature which actually says we must break India, that this has to become a Muslim country again. That's the PFI literature. So, the RSS is not an equivalent. The RSS has people with lathis in their shakhas. The PFI has guns. So, please don't make this, the PFI is an openly jihadist, violent organization.
Gauhar?
Yeah. So is the case with RSS. RSS gives training, and there are n number of videos. And I've been personally witness to a training camp where they were using air gun
I mean,
for
I think that's the
training
budget. If
the
I'm
thing.
not wrong,
So
that video
so
was from
don't be
Karnataka.
competitive. Don't be again competitive on that score. I am saying that PFI is as bad as any
Okay, let me bring
fundamentalist
in.
organization, and RSS, I think, is a fundamentalist fascist organization.
I think that video that you mentioned, Mr. Raza, was from Karnataka, and it was not the RSS. It was one of the other groups. I'm not able to actually remember the name of the outfit. Let's just look that up. We did see the pictures of those air guns and that training being provided, but it wasn't an RSS Shakha. That I just wanted to clarify that video that you mentioned. But PKD, you're wanting to come in there. Go ahead, Mr. Nambiar.
Well, first and foremost, I am a Swayam Sevak. I was a Bal Swayam Sevak. At the age of 3 or 4, I started going to an RSS Shaka. And I'm very, very proud with the fact that I'm an RSS Swayam Sevak. And anybody whomsoever criticizing the RSS, of course, RSS is not an organization beyond criticism. One can definitely criticize, but with some kind of a fact, some kind of reality. RSS is an organization. I'm not going to give a lecture on RSS here, and I'm not. That is not the platform. But one thing I'll tell you, just an example, what you have said. As Tavleen ji was, RSS talk about Akhand Bharat, a nationalistic India. But whereas PF5 talks about breaking India. And if you wanted to, Gaur Saab still wanted to compare RSS and the PF5, I'm sorry, sir. I respect your age and I respect your wisdom and experience. But I can only
I'm,
say that I think
I'm,
you just need to go back to once again to some kind of a research on an RSS. If you allow me, I will send you a couple of books which was even all the prime ministers of this country, including Indira Gandhi, what they said, the apex courts of this country, what they said, that
Yeah,
alone should be. Now coming back to the real topic.
One minute. I just wanted to look up what the group was, and the group that was running that camp was the Bajrang Dal in Karnataka.
Coorg.
Yeah, I just wanted to look that up, so I just wanted to read that.
Yeah, it was
actually members of the RSS family, Sangh Parivar. Let's not forget that all of them are members of the Sangh Parivar. Don't do who over here.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get you. Why are you getting agitated, Tushar Saab? You are the great grandson of Gandhiji, why are you getting agitated?
Why won't he?
You are talking about 1947.
Okay, everyone calm down. Let's come back to.
I just wanted to give an answer because he has said.
You have to give me time.
He's about to.
Can I request all of you to speak one by one? I will let Mr. Nambiar complete his point, then Mr. Raza, then Mr. Gandhi. Mr. Nambiar, go ahead. Yes.
If nobody in this universe forget about an Indian, 1947 will not be forgotten by anybody. If you forget 1947, that means the very essence of the living of this new India will not be there, because that is a learning which we need to live in, so that we don't repeat that again. That is what Tavleen ji even said, that how can you forget 1947? And we all know that why that this great country was divided only because on the basis of a religion. And of course, the great Bapu was even saddened and did protested, or he cried for that. So number two, with regard to with regard to the Lulu Mall controversy, as I said, I don't think a businessman is ever religion. For a businessman, religion is not anything. It's purely personal. There is some kind of a movement. Even Hemant was talking about that. There is some kind of sleeper cells are working just to create some kind of ruckus in the society, which we have been seeing it in a fashion, one after another coming up. Action and reaction, both are bad, but the action is something which we need to contain first, so that the reactions will not be there. And most of the places, whether it is a burqa to this, many of these incidents, even the attack on multiple Hanuman Jayanti or Ram Navami and etc., why there is not so much of criticism? You are only talking about minority appeasement. They have no more place in this country.
Now 1 minute. Now you've made your point. Now
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the photographs and the videos of the Bajrang Dal were the ones holding air guns. This happened at Ponapet in Kodagu district in Karnataka. It was just bothering me to try and remember the exact details, so I pulled those out. Mr. Raza, please go ahead.
Camps also, and I know of them. They were held after 2002 in Gujarat as well. If you want, I can dig out the videos from there. But Mr. Nambi, he was trying to send me some books. He should go back to his Guruji's book, named as We or Our Nation or Defined, where he says that he wants to learn lessons from Hitler. And let's not forget that the first terrorist was accused of being a member of first terrorist of independent India was Gandhiji's murderer, who was related to somehow accused.
Multiple times.
Hold on. I have kept quiet. I have kept quiet.
This is not right.
You cannot.
Right, Barka.
You cannot.
I will let you respond in just a second.
Don't tell me history of the country.
Okay,
keep it to yourself. You are distorting history. You are distorting history day in and day out. Keep it to yourself. Don't teach me history.
Okay, let me bring in Tushar, and let's come back to what we were talking about. Tushar, you made a comment, how long are we going to keep going back to 1947? We get caught in an endless loop when we start discussing, what happened in 1947, who was responsible, and also this sort of mirror imaging, competitive communalism sort of cycle that we get stuck in. My question to you is, you're absolutely right that to other a community is abhorrent, but is the way forward for an explosion of religiosity, like it has exploded in our headlines, in our public spaces, in our politics? Is that the answer? Or is that only counterproductive?
I don't believe it's an explosion of religiosity. I believe it is the politicization of religion that we see rampant and dominant in our public spaces today and even in the media. And they are all working towards an agenda. And, intellectuals love to uh, intellectualize the whole thing and justify whatever they want to justify. The fact remains that for all this, the millionaire is not going to suffer if he has to tomorrow shut down this mall and go somewhere else. He's going to make sure he's going to take his money and go. The people who are going to suffer the consequences of this hate are going to be the common people whose rosy roti is dependent on this. And unfortunately, nobody talks responsibly in this situation. We see at one place we see a rationalization of saying how the scheme is there and there is this movement and there is this turn for the good and all that. The other place you're trying to scratch open the scars of the past. I'm not saying, for not a minute am I saying that we should forget what happened in 1947 or 48. We have to remember that, because that will give us the lesson and the
Okay.
experience for our present and the future to come.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, how long are we going to keep scratching open and keeping the scars of those memories festering? That's what
या
I'm saying.
हेमंत जी, क्या होगा? आपने कहा मॉल के बाहर अब बहुत तगड़ी सिक्योरिटी है, ये मामला खत्म है कि अभी और उभरेगा?
देखिए, मामला बहुत छोटा सा था, उस मामले को बड़ा बनाने की कोशिश की गई। मैं क्यों कहता हूं कि योगी आदित्यनाथ सरकार का जो एटीट्यूड 5 साल रहा है, उससे अलग हट करके उसने अपने आप को बड़ा बहुत सरलता, सहजता से यहाँ पेश किया है, क्योंकि उनको पता है अगर कोई इस तरह की हरकत हुई तो नुकसान उनका है। नुकसान उनका इसलिए है, इन्वेस्टमेंट आगे नहीं आएगा। यूपी में क्या हुआ बरखा, आप देख लीजिए, 85, 86 के बाद नोएडा, जो दिल्ली से सटा हुआ एनसीआर का हिस्सा है, उस इलाके में जो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन हुआ, वही उत्तर प्रदेश की आज तक संपूर्ण पूंजी है, टोटल एसेट है इन्वेस्टमेंट का। उसके बाद खाली इसलिए कि वसूली होती है, रंगदारी होती है, गुंडागर्दी होती है। ये 25, 30, 40 साल तक सिस्टम चलता रहा। अब माहौल थोड़ा बदला है, तो सरकार भी यहाँ बहुत पेशेंस के साथ काम कर रही है। और मैं बता रहा हूँ, फाइनली यहाँ कुछ नहीं होने जा रहा है। फिर भी एक चीज ध्यान रखिए कि गौहर साहब को जरूर एक बात बता दूं। गौहर साहब, आप तो लखनऊ से इतना अच्छे तरीके से वाकिफ हो, लखनऊ में 20 जुलूस निकलते हैं, जिनमें ज्यादा जुलूस हमारे मुसलमान दोस्तों भाइयों को होते हैं। इन्हीं जुलूसों की वजह से यहाँ बहुत बार दंगे हुए हैं। दंगे खाली हिंदू मुस्लिम नहीं हुए हैं, दंगे सिया सुन्नी भी हुए हैं, लेकिन उनको कंट्रोल। और आज भी बता रहा हूँ, लखनऊ जैसा सहज सरल शहर आपको इस देश में, इस मुल्क में नहीं मिलेगा। बहुत अरसा गुजर गया होगा, आपने सुना होगा कि लखनऊ में दंगे हुए, लेकिन मैं एक बात बता दूं, फिर कह रहा हूं बरखा जी, 1947 में धार्मिक आधार पर कट्टरता का जो भाव था, भगवान न करे कभी ऐसा खून बहे, कुछ ऐसी घटना हो, आज की तारीख में चाहे पॉलिटिकल कारण हो, चाहे हम लोग मीडिया में जो बड़ी बड़ी बहसें करते हैं, उसका जो एक बहुत नकारात्मक स्वरूप जनता के बीच जा रहा हो, ईमानदारी वाबेदार हो, कट्टरता बड़ी है और कट्टरता घातक है आगे के लिए।
नहीं, आपने ठीक बात कही। आई थिंक वी कांट डिसएग्री विद एनीथिंग दैट यू हैव सेड कि एक इन्फ्लेमेबिलिटी जो है, जिसमें मीडिया को भी बहुत ध्यान देना होगा कि हम किस तरह से इन मुद्दों को प्रेजेंट करते हैं। मिस्टर नाम्बियार, बिफोर आई गिव तवलीन द लास्ट वर्ड, आई हैव ओनली वन क्वेश्चन फॉर यू. I am on board with the fact that religious displays there, I respectfully disagree with Tushar, in public spaces should be avoided. But would our reaction have been the same had this been members of another faith? I don't say which faith, just members of another faith. Would the reaction have been different? Suppose this were a group of Sikhs singing the Kirtan, or a group of Christians, let's say it was close to Christmas, or let's say it was a group of Hindus, or let's say it could be any community. Would you still have felt that this was avoidable? Would these visuals have still been called shocking?
See, in a commercial place, I have a couple of very large clubs in the Middle East. I own them. But I don't see any commercial any religious activity to take place there. In fact, I told you that it is in Doha, in the heart of the Qatar in Doha, wherein I have these large clubs. I don't see, it's absolutely a Muslim country. There is never, and in fact, To me, not even once any of the authorities or the government has ever told me to create something like that. I believe religious is very personal stuff. And secondly, let me tell you, once in a while a religious procession, whether it, how can you compare namaz?
No, we've accepted.
How can you compare
accepted.
with Kavod Yatra
We've
namaz?
accepted that. I only said, suppose there was another religious display
I don't think
inside
so.
the mall.
I don't think so. I believe that if any religion would have been done, this could have been the same thing. Maybe the other religion would have come out, or otherwise the mall authorities would have come out and did it. Secondly, and most importantly, even if this, I'm not worried about the namaz, what happened there. Seriously, to be very honest, few people have done it, whatever it means. The conspiracy behind that needs to be checked. If there is a conspiracy just to create a communal clashes in this country, that is where the authorities need to work. I don't blame the Lulu Mall at all, even the authorities. It may have just happened. Lulu, as a business, do not discriminate people. They have millions of Hindus working in Lulu as a company.
Okay, Tushar, I was going to give Tavleen the last word very briefly, since you have advocated to, not having a kind of phobic response to the public displays of religion. What is the ideal way forward according to you? Because we've seen these kind of clashes take place near the capital in the city of Gurgaon as well. What is the solution?
Barkha, I don't have a solution, but I have a question to put. Would we debate, police stations, public sector undertakings all over the place in this country? Every year they have Satyanarayan pujas and Navratri pujas. Are we going to debate that and ask why in those institutions this is happening, or are we only going to talk about when namaz is offered? Please, debate this.
Okay, Tavleen, I think this question has been brought up by Gauhar as well, that there are kind of accepted cultural traditions in public spaces that are Hindu traditions, and nobody questions those in the way that namaz in this mall has been questioned. Your last thought before we close.
Look, the atmosphere at the moment in this country is explosive. All it needs is a little match, and we're headed towards civil war. That's how serious the situation is. So in such an atmosphere, nobody should be encouraged to go to shopping malls and start saying their prayers.
That's a different argument for whether you, in principle, agree or disagree with it.
I'm sorry, but when you keep saying how long are we going to open the scars? The scars are open. That's the problem. That's the problem. If the scars had healed, this would not be a problem. Unfortunately, they remain open, and they have been very well exploited by the BJP for political reasons. So let's not close our eyes to what's going on. We know exactly what's going on. And in this atmosphere, ordinary citizens should cooperate by not praying in shopping malls.
Okay, let's leave it there. These are difficult conversations to have. We too walk a tightrope every evening as we try and remain civil, but not have them be inflammable, not offend any faith, keep civil rights and dignity at the heart of the conversation, as well as our constitutionalism. There can be different opinions, but we always hope to end this program on a note of civility, but without shutting our eyes to what's happening around us. Thank you very much, Mr. Nambiar, Tavleen, Singh, Gauhar, Raza, to Hemant ji and to Tushar ji. Thank you. Take care. Have a great week.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Voter Story and support independent, robust journalism.